years. So you can't grow food in that soil, and you may need to grow food pretty soon if we have an economic situation, a collapse or a debt collapse or a devaluation of the dollar. You may need to be growing some food, and you don't want to ruin your soil in your own lawn. You might need some tomatoes out of there pretty soon.
Are you familiar with this story about walnuts? I'm thinking I read this story correctly, that walnuts, the walnut industry, had made some claims about the health benefits of some of the things you find in walnuts, and the FDA came down on them saying, well, if you're going to make those kind of claims, looks like we're going to have to declare walnuts a drug.
Yes, that I think the company you're referring to is Blue Diamond, and that was one case of many where the FDA goes to these companies and says, because you are making a truthful and scientifically valid health claim, that therefore magically converts your nuts into drugs. And therefore it's an unapproved drug, and we're going to threaten you with imprisonment or confiscation of all of your products. The FDA has done this with many companies. They did it with a cherry manufacturer that was selling cherry supplements and cherry bars. And that company was linking to government-funded scientific studies that talked about how cherries can reduce arthritis, inflammation, and eliminate gout. I mean, cherries are a cure for gout. And the FDA said, well, I'm sorry, in that case, it was actually the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. And they said, you merely linking to a government study, it causes you to commit fraud in the marketing of these cherries as a drug. And they forced that company to sign a so-called consent decree in which the company must admit to committing crimes of fraudulently marketing unapproved drugs. And I have that document so I'm not making this up. I actually have that document, and it's documented on our website as well.
You know, you mentioned the examples of all this unhealthy stuff that we eat, that government seems to clear the path for us to eat this stuff. Industries, these giant agribiz companies are only too happy to get us addicted to it. The fattening of America as a result, all the diseases that we suffer from, all of that seems to play from the food industry, seems to play right into the hands of the drug industry. It's like, I don't know if it's a conspiracy at the corporate level between those two giants, but it sure seems like it. So we eat this bad stuff, we get sick, we have problems for our whole lives, and there's the drug industry there to give us pills for it that never cures us.
Yeah, you've nailed it. You've nailed it on the head. I like to describe it as walking through a Walgreens store. There's nothing against Walgreens in particular, but if you look at how the store is laid out, at the front of the store, you have all the processed packaged food products and the high fructose corn syrup and the aspartame, the diet sodas. You even have infant formula products that are made with 42% corn syrup solids, in case you want to feed your baby a bunch of sugar. But these kinds of foods, I believe, promote degenerative disease. I mean, the evidence is quite clear. And then in the back of the store, they have the solutions, the pharmaceuticals and the vaccines. But you got to walk through all the junk foods and the processed foods to get to the drugs that are marketed to you as a cure for the very diseases that the foods promoted in you in the first place. So yeah, they do operate hand in hand. I don't know if it's a conspiracy from the top down. I think they're just both trying to make a lot of money selling products that hurt a lot of people.
It doesn't seem like USDA, FDA, FTC policies change all that much based on who's in the White House, what party is in power. It seems like those bureaucracies go on regardless of the policy of the country at a given time.
Well, you're very observant. In fact, health freedom attorney Jonathan Emord speaks to this very issue. He's written a book called The Rise of Tyranny that talks about how Congress has delegated regulatory power to these various government agencies, such as the FDA, the USDA, and so on. Now, these agencies are led by unelected bureaucrats, so they answer to no one. And they essentially write their own laws, which are just called regulations, and those regulations can't be voted on by anybody, and Congress can't even intervene unless they make a special effort. So this is how the FDA can actually ban most vitamins and minerals and nutritional supplements in the country if they choose to do so, and Congress can't really do anything about it the way things are set up right now. So we've got to get to a point in this country where we take back the tyranny from these runaway rogue regulatory agencies and put it back into the hands of the people through Congress. where there is some accountability, of course, a lot of corruption, but at least you can vote them out and vote somebody new back into office.
One of our listeners had sent me an idea, an equivalent, an Earth Day equivalent. We have Earth Day to sort of highlight issues and concerns about the environment, whether or not we can have something like that to help farmers, organic farmers, honest farmers, food producers, honest food distributors, something like that.
It's a great idea. I would just encourage people to make that every day, you know, just in terms of where you spend your food dollars. The more you can spend with local farmers, the more help you're going to be able to, you know, the more difference you're going to make out there. It's when you go to the grocery store and you shop for the processed foods, you support those practices. When you shop for the lowest price hamburger, you support factory farmed, hormone injected beef. You know, you just got to be aware of where you're spending your dollars, because you are impacting everything upstream from that point of purchase.
So much of it just depends on paying attention, reading labels. Hopefully the labels are accurate, but paying attention to what you're putting on the table for your family to eat.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really just being aware. Reading labels is absolutely crucial, and I encourage people to avoid buying any products that have ingredients that you can't pronounce. We did a piece on fake blueberry bits, a lot of the so-called blueberry cereals and blueberry breads. Well, the blueberries aren't blueberries. They're made out of propylene glycol and FD&C red number 2 and blue number 40 artificial colors combined with hydrogenated oils and corn syrup solids. I mean, that is what a blueberry is in the food supply today. It's out of control, you know?
I saw that article. In fact, I think we posted on the Coast to Coast website a couple of weeks ago when it came out. I just thought that's just about as sneaky as it gets.
Well,
but unfortunately, it's not just as sneaky as it gets.
No, and the courts actually support some of this. What came out of that article, by the way, was a lawsuit against General Mills because they sell a cereal product called Total Blueberry Pomegranate Cereal. And that cereal contains absolutely no blueberries and no pomegranate. But that's the name of the cereal. And a law firm contacted us for some information about that, and they attempted to file a class action lawsuit, which I believe, as of right now, has been thrown out because the court said that on the cereal box in the fine print, it says, quote, naturally and artificially flavored. Therefore, that excuses what I consider to be a very deceitful name of a product.
We're going to take a break in a second here. When you hear the music, that means we're heading to the break. But I wanted to ask you quickly, do these companies come after you? You put this stuff online. You try to educate the American public about what to eat and what not to eat. Do the big guys come after you?
They've threatened to, but then I mentioned the discovery phase of lawsuits where we get to look through their paperwork and see what's real, and they don't like that. They usually agree to go away.
Well, that's a good that works in all sorts of journalism. I can assure you, because the threats of lawsuits pop up for anyone who does any kind of reporting. We're talking with Mike Adams, the health ranger, and a couple of questions that I want to get into after the break. I want to talk about raw milk. It's a topic we haven't touched on. It's illegal. It's illegal to have raw milk. It's portrayed as something that's dangerous. Whereas a lot of people think it's better for you than the milk you get in the store, the pasteurized, homogenized stuff. We'll get into that. We're opening up the phone lines as well. Stay with us here on Coast to Coast AM. My guest is Mike Adams, the Food Ranger. We have links on the Coast to Coast website to all of his information. There's a lot of stuff to read and digest, folks. We're going to ask one more question before we go to the phones, and that deals with raw milk. Mike, help me understand why raw milk is illegal.
Well, it's just astonishing, first of all, that it is illegal, but there's a raw milk farmer in Springfield, Missouri, who's being prosecuted, and people all over the country are being prosecuted and even stalked by police for selling raw milk. Now, the FDA says it's because it's unsafe, because it has living microorganisms in it. In the FDA's mind, the only safe food is dead food. But we say, in the holistic nutrition industry, we say dead food leads to dead people. And live foods are actually some of the healthiest foods that you can eat. So we want to legalize raw milk. And just the idea that we even have to discuss this is crazy, because America was built on raw milk. And, the pioneers drank raw milk. That's what kept them alive. The fact that it's illegal today is just outrageous. And it shows you how much tyranny has been applied to the food industry by our own government.
And again, is that because that would keep us healthier? We'd need less drugs, fewer other stuff? Is that that's what the conspiracy involves here?
Well, I think the processed milk industry feels threatened by raw milk because, the word about raw milk is spreading, and it is healthier for you. It actually populates your intestinal flora with healthy, friendly bacteria so that you're more resistant to other foodborne diseases. You hear about people that are killed by E. coli and food outbreaks. Well, those are typically people who are on a lot of antibiotics, so they don't have healthy flora in their gut, and that makes them more susceptible. Raw milk can repopulate that and help you resist other foodborne illness.
Let's take a couple of questions from our listeners. First-time caller, Patrick in Helena, Montana. Hi, Patrick. How you doing?
Good, George. Thank you for taking my call. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Patrick.
About 6 months ago, I started juicing, and I've lost about 50 pounds. I only juice organic fruits and vegetables. It's been a great benefit for me, in addition to cutting back on portion sizes and walking. My question is, since the Fukushima accident in March, I've had concerns about particularly the food supply, being that I juice a lot of like kale and chard and spinach, things that grow outside for the most part. What's your opinion on it? Do you believe our food supply has been contaminated to a level that would be concerning?
I believe in North America the food supply is perfectly safe in terms of radiation fallout. There is some fallout, of course, on the West Coast and Oregon and Washington, but it's really minuscule, I think, compared to the health benefits that you get from doing the juicing that you've described. So I wouldn't let radiation stop me from juicing at all. Good question, though.
Thanks, Patrick. Wildcard line, George in California. Hi, George.
Thanks for taking my call. It's a great, important program, gentlemen. Thank you very much. My question is, how do I obtain the paperwork to start a petition where I'm at? Personally, I would like to do this because I realize the importance of getting this done, and more signatures the better.
You're referring to the petition to keep nutritional supplements legal?
Yes.
Yeah, that effort is just getting underway. I would tune into the nonprofit Alliance for Natural Health, and that's anh-usa.org. And you can also follow the news on our website, naturalnews.com. We'll be reporting on this and donating money to the effort and really just working hard in the months ahead. And I apologize that it's not organized yet. I mean, this is really breaking news. Nothing is really underway at the moment, but it's coming soon.
Okay, I also realized with Monsanto, who I personally spent time on the phone with just last week, because of the fact that these chemtrails, I believe they're making the chemicals that are being used. Now, I know that's a little off topic, but, with the show last night about the fluoride in the water that, that the farmers are using or being forced to use, the water, even the organic plants and vegetables, it's very disturbing what Monsanto's doing to the American public.
Well, I've not heard any indication that Monsanto's manufacturing chemicals using chemtrails. That's new information to me, so I can't really comment on that. But it's something to investigate.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. East of the Rockies, Elise in Manhattan. Hi, Elise.
Hi. Thank you so much for taking my call, George. I'm a huge fan of you. And Mike Adams, you are a godsend. I check into Natural News daily. I love your articles. Witty, smart, intelligent. It's amazing. My question to you guys is, or to Mike rather, what type of water is the safest, also considering the Fukushima fallout? Is the most pure form of water would be like distilled or reverse osmosis? Like, what's your opinion on filtered water for the healthiest body you can get?
Well, I think the most practical system today is really a reverse osmosis system. A whole house filter that uses RO is good in most areas, unless you're in an area that has a lot of water restrictions, because, of course, that technology uses a lot of water. Distillation uses a lot of energy and electricity, so it has other environmental impacts. The very best water you can get is local spring water. You can search on Google, and you can find where there are springs in your areas and go out there and grab some of your own in glass bottles and drink that. That's the best you'll ever find.
Thank you, Elise. Appreciate it. A lot